What's going on, everybody? I'm back. Actually, following through on the promise that I made to all of you that we were going to start streaming, hopefully weekly. Maybe we can get that up a little bit more. But obviously, it's the day before the Super Bowl, so I gotta represent with the Chiefs gear. Sorry for all of you Philadelphia fans, but that's just the way it is. I'm gonna check real quick on my phone, make sure that everything is going well on this particular stream, so that we can just continue on and kind of talk about the last video, talk about some of the stuff that's going on, and pretty much talk about whatever you guys want to talk about today. So let me just go in here real quick. I see that the live stream is up. And it looks like the background music isn't really showing up right now, so I'm just going to tweak this just a little bit so that there's a little bit more something something. And we're going to just check this out. Let's see what it is. Not hearing much at this point. That's all right. So anyway, not a big deal. Hi. We're back. I know I should probably be a little bit better about just making sure that that's taken care of before the broadcast, but technology, while I have all of this stuff kind of here and ready to go, still kind of figuring out this new setup. So if you guys notice something on the other side, just let me know, and I'll obviously fix and or adjust it. I'm gonna go real quick here and figure out why that's not working. The broadcasting stuff that I use just does not like to agree with me sometimes, so got to make sure that it's working right and we're good to go. But yeah, I hope you guys liked the last video that we came up with, or that I put out there. A little bit different, talking about Chichen Itza, but there were so many random things and random articles that I saw that kind of came up in almost every single Yucatan magazine, the Yucatan Times. I mean, I was seeing this stuff on TMZ, like I said in the last video, and there are just so many things that are going on in Chichen Itza that I felt like that would probably be a good update for anybody who actually wanted to go down there and kind of check it out, which I know happens to be a significant number of people, not just from this channel, but people who are subscribed to this channel, but people who view my content and others' content. I also saw, I think it was there was a channel called the B1M, and I hadn't seen it come across for whatever reason, but that channel had a really good little depiction of, or not a little depiction, that makes it sound negative. They had a really good kind of breakdown of the Mayan train. So if you guys want me to put that in the description of this video, just let me know, and I'll do that as soon as it ends. But it was a great little breakdown. I said it again. It's about 10-12 minutes, and obviously much larger channel than this one is, so it had a few million subscribers, and they really broke down kind of everything that was going on down there. They had some great B-roll, some great footage around the train, and you know, again, it's just one of those things that I talk about a lot because it's one of the biggest goings on in Yucatan. But then doing the piece on Chichen Itza, everything kind of is wrapped up into one at that point. So for those of you who are on here, obviously I will tell you, please feel free to hop into the chat. Let me know if you guys have any questions. It should be just right on the screen. For those of you who are coming back, you guys know how it works. But if you guys have any questions for me, that's kind of the general Q&A. But the other thing I wanted to talk about was we're going down to Merida this summer. We had planned on actually going down in January after my wife's trial, but two things happened. One, as most of you know, we had some renters that rented our house out for the first 3 months of the year, and then on top of that, my wife had a trial that we didn't think was actually going to happen, and then it happened. So we weren't able to get down there. What we are planning on doing is we're still, even though it seems like a terrible way to plan a vacation, we're still kind of working on the last little bits, but we're probably going to end up being down there at Isla Mujeres on the other side, on the eastern side of Yucatan. So it'll be our first trip actually staying on the island as opposed to in Cancun and then just going to the island for a fun little bit. But that's kind of that's the plan, and hopefully it works out pretty well. But yeah, I'm pretty excited about that. Just kind of getting out of town, getting someplace warm. It's freezing cold here in Kansas City. Obviously, wish that I was in Arizona where the Chiefs are playing, but when you hear that the tickets there are so incredibly expensive, it's a little bit terrifying. I think I saw one that was, Jesus, something like $10,000 for a ticket, and I think that's minimum. That's just what you kind of expect when you do something like that. Sorry, I got a notification that my stream's current bit rate is lower than recommended, so they wanted me to fix something, but I don't think I need to do that. It looks like it's running just fine. If it's not, obviously, again, please tell me. But yeah, so Chiefs are playing this weekend. Isla at the end of the month. It's not a bad time to be alive. And then, going to the actual Merida part of things, we're going to be down sometime this summer. We still haven't determined. We're trying to figure out if we're going to go early summer or late summer. And, obviously, like most of you guys know, the reason for that is the kids and, school and stuff like that. But we also have a lake house. We want to get down there and boat and do all the fun stuff, too. So trying to figure out when we can get down there for our yearly sabbatical and chill out. But the positive is, because of my wife's trial, because of the way that things have kind of gone for me earlier in this year, and actually even later last year, going down there and actually being able to work from there is going to be much, much easier than even it has been in the past. So we're pretty excited about that. Trying to figure out who's going to be able to go, see friends, family, all that kind of stuff. It sounds like we have a lot of guests that are coming down, which we're pretty excited about. I do think that we've made a determination, and this is something that you guys might want to keep in mind too. When we have gone down there, it has obviously been a fantastic time no matter who we have around. Between friends and family and everything else, it's great. But if you're the person that's kind of hosting everybody, the one thing that I would tell you is it is way easier to bring somebody down there with you, especially if you have kids, because they might be able to help you with that whole situation. But the other side of things is you may want to consider the last few days making sure that you're on your own, that it is really the last part of the vacation, because even though you might be down there for a long time, that stress of trying to entertain and then boom, you're right back, coming back to the city with no real break in between. It feels like you're living down there, not necessarily like you're vacationing, if that makes sense. So that's kind of what our plan is. We have some friends of ours from Atlanta, a bunch of friends from around here in Kansas City, and then obviously a bunch of family that we're trying to figure out exactly when everybody can come down. But from the last experience that we had, from the last time that everybody came down this past year when we took possession of our house, if you will, it seems like anybody who was a little bit worried about it, and you guys probably know what I mean, not necessarily worried about the place, but just worried about are we going to enjoy this city that we haven't really been to in the past, especially in this situation. I think we put everybody's issues at ease, and I think pretty much everybody that we've talked to is just kind of genuinely excited to get down there again and figure it out. So I'm excited to have everybody there. I'm really excited to just kind of go back and forth and deal with that. So it'll be fun. Stream status good. Stream settings. Sorry, it's kind of freaking me out. My phone is showing that everything's going perfectly, but my computer is saying no. So we'll just tell the computer to stop, and we'll keep it going. But yeah, so that's kind of the situation as it is right now, man. It's exciting. We're excited to get back down there. The summertime, as you guys probably know, it's hot. I mean, May is the hottest month, so you're not talking about going down there in the absolute heat of everything, but you're still talking about going down there when it's relatively warm, we'll say, as opposed to going down there and say, I don't know, November, when it's fairly cool. It just feels like kind of a normal climate. But I'm honestly really excited to get down there for the summer because the way that the house is set up, and again, we've gone over this in so many videos, but we have so much shade and there's so many AC units and everything else that there's really not that big a deal. The one thing that was a little frustrating to me recently was we got the bill for the month from our property manager, and we have, a bunch of solar panels on the roof, and obviously, as you know, we have a lot of energy that goes to that house between, technology and AC units and pool and all that kind of stuff. And between that and all of it, there was a reason that we invested so much in the solar panels. But I got the bill back for this bi-monthly rate. And for those of you who don't know, the CFE, which is the electric company down there, they bill bi-monthly, so it's 2 months in a row, and our bill was something like around, I can't remember if it was just over, I think it was just over like $200 a month. And that should not be happening. And the last thing that I want to do is get on CFE's bad side, and then all of a sudden we're paying a bunch of money that we shouldn't be. So my question to our property managers, and they're working on that now, is do we need to increase the size of our solar, you know, system, or is something going on to the solar system to where it's not functioning properly? And the number one thing is I want to make sure that we don't fall into that next category where we get bumped and all of a sudden we're paying a bunch of money for energy that I thought we had already kind of balanced out with our system. So they're working on that right now. But again, like, we're doing well. Like, that is not putting us, you know, in a bad position to where we're not making money on the rentals that are down there or anything like that. But it was definitely a situation where I was kind of looking at it and going, man, this is a little concerning when I've got a ton of money kind of put into it. And also, if I already have a large system, how much electricity are the people that are staying at our house using? Because I thought that was kind of in our agreement that if they were going, you know, we'll say over and above, that it might be on them to kind of cover that. For the most part, I don't really care. But if they're going significantly above it, we got to talk. And that might just be a situation where it's unfortunate, but something might not be hooked up correctly. But boy, that was not a fun bill to open up when we got it. But again, we're still in the positive. Anybody that's down there right now knows that, you know, we're kind of, it's starting to get hotter and hotter. Again, May's the hottest month, so we're kind of on that loop right back around. But that was a little disconcerting to get that particular message there. By the way, if you guys are here and you don't mind, please click the like button. That just kind of helps this video get out, especially as it's a live stream. It kind of helps it get out to a few more viewers. If not, appreciate it anyway. And if you're new here, feel free to subscribe. We have all kinds of information on this channel about Merida, about real estate, international real estate, and the like. So welcome. Please feel free to comment if you have any questions about this live stream or anything else. So yeah, but yeah, so that's kind of the news for the rental side of things. We have 2 more people that are going to be there in April. So again, like, for those of you who don't know, we have somebody there right now. They're there until the end of March. And then 2 people in the last month, or in the last 3 weeks, I guess, have applied to stay there for April. And that comes through Airbnb as well as Henry Ponce's website, which all that information is down below. So if you guys want to check out our listing, it's right down there. But it's nice to see because these are like, you know, 4-night rentals, 1-week rentals. I think one was a week and a half. So we're seeing an increase in the number of people who are actually looking at staying in our place, which to me is one of the coolest things that we can have. Because if we continue to see this as a positive investment, you know, we have the ability to really kind of do whatever we want. And so, you know, like this trip to Isla, it would be nice to be able to go down to Merida and stay in our own place, and we'll do that this summer. But if it's not open, that means that somebody's there, and that kind of pays for our trip. So it's tough to see that as a negative in some way, outside of the fact that we can't go down there. And we actually thought about going down and staying at the Hyatt. But then we found a deal and we were like, well, we can use points and go to some place a little bit different this time, knowing that we're going to be right back in a couple of months. So, you know, not necessarily the happiest moment where we couldn't go see our amazing place, but at the same time, you know, oh well, it's all good. But I don't know if any of you guys saw it, but the video that I put out about Chichen Itza, that was an interesting one, wasn't it? It was... that was one that was really kind of born out of just, like I said earlier, just seeing these random articles that were coming up, like the issues with the native population there and the INAH, and then the people that have decided that they're going to go to the Temple of Kukulkan or El Castillo and just walk up it, even though it's illegal to walk up it right now. And so I figured that was probably a good spot to start with, a good reason to kind of discuss it and see what happened. It wasn't necessarily one of my most popular videos. Those tend to be the ones that talk about Merida specifically. But it's something in the Yucatan. It's obviously something that's going to be more and more important as things go down, especially with the Mayan train, with its very very interesting kind of last leg here. I didn't see that B1M video showed a lot more of the actual building of the Mayan train than I had seen in the past. So it was pretty cool to be able to kind of look at that and see some of the video footage that they had compared to what I had access to. So that was pretty nice. Again, I can't wait to be at their level and have that many subscribers so that you can actually do all of those things. But this is probably a good time, speaking of that, to thank the patrons and the members of this channel. That information's down below, but it's really cool to be able to kind of produce more and more of this content. And the patrons and the members have really, really helped out with that. So thank you all very much. A few long-term and a few newer ones. So thank you all like crazy. And if you guys do want to know about the Patreon stuff, I've got ebooks on there, all kinds of videos. Like basically everything on there is ad-free of YouTube videos, and then it's also the ebooks that I produce. So I basically produce one a month dealing with a topic that you guys kind of ask for. So like the last one was the medical care in Mexico and how that works. So we put out a really good one this month. I think I put it up on February 3rd or 4th. It was supposed to go out February 1st, but I couldn't really get it done. But so that's on there too. So check that out. Hope you guys enjoy it. And yeah, so I'm looking at my screen right now and realizing that I've got a really weird green tint to this particular video. So sorry about that. I added more lights to this area, and I think I need to do a little bit more because for whatever reason, I'm having a real difficult time getting this particular camera, which is a really nice little version of this thing, that in the moment that I plugged a new feature in, it completely shifted the way that the picture came out. So sorry if I'm a little green today. I'm not trying to be. It's probably trying to tell me something about the game tomorrow, but I'm not going to listen to it. And again, for those of you who are watching, please feel free to ask me any questions that you might have. Obviously here for it. I brought my yellow lime green Fairway Independent Mortgage notes so that I could actually take notes this time, because I had a lot of questions last time when some people came up. I wanted to make sure that I had something that I could actually write stuff down and then immediately go back and actually like follow up with all the stuff that you guys asked for. So that's why this thing is here. And yeah, so there we are. And if you guys have any questions, especially, or I should say comments, not necessarily questions, but if there are days that work better for you to do these live streams, please put it down in the comments down below. I'm happy to do them during the week. I'm obviously a little bit, I have to be a little bit careful during the week because my kids are in school and stuff like that. But I'd like to do these when we have a bunch of the members of the channel and subscribers of the channel actually available to do it. I'm noticing that this one's not quite as busy as the one before was, which is fine. I'm going to stay on here for quite some time anyway, and you know me, I can talk forever about pretty much anything. But if there's a day or time or something like that that actually works better for you guys, the better that is. And I think the most fun I'm going to have is actually when I'm back in Merida and dealing with like actually being in the little bedroom / studio that we have down there, because that just makes it so much nicer when you're there and you've got the beautiful outside pictures and you can actually see that you are there. That's one of the things I notice about some of the channels that I didn't necessarily think about, but it makes all the sense in the world. If I've got this background with, you know, my two loves, my Zelda poster and my Game of Thrones posters and stuff like that, and obviously James Dean over there, it doesn't really inspire the same thing as like either having a bunch of B-roll in something or being able to show that I'm actually at the house in Merida or walking the streets and stuff like that. There's one channel, I think I believe his name's Jose Ortega, or I could be completely wrong about that. But it's Arteaga, and he's another channel that is growing pretty well too. He's bigger than my channel, but it's amazing to me just the ability for him to just go out and affix his camera to his helmet and take a bike ride, and he's there, the place that I want to be, as opposed to just talking about it. So I'm excited to be back down there and be able to show off all of that cool stuff, especially the house. I mean, come on. That's the thing that I think grew the channel the most, was just kind of going through the idea that we were a couple that was looking to be expats eventually. We went through the entire construction process. Unfortunately, it did last 2.5 years, but that was ludicrously fun. And now we have a place where, outside of renters being there, we can pretty much go anytime that we want to. So, pretty neat. But the, sorry, something in my eye. But one of the most interesting things about being down there, the process and everything else is, and I think I've spoken about this, and I actually have a script ready for it. I just haven't done it yet. I've asked the poll question a bunch of times. But one of the things that I do want to make a video about, but that I also am just amazed when you're down in a city, and this could be anywhere. This could be in Mexico, this could be in Russia, this could be pretty much anywhere on the planet. But when you're in a place that speaks a different language than you, it's amazing to me that wherever you go in that area, wherever you might end up, wherever you might show up, you actually have the ability to just adapt to that language. Like, if you actually interact with people, the ability for you to start speaking with more and more and more people with more and more confidence is absolutely amazing. I mean, I use Duolingo. I haven't done it for about 3 weeks, but for a while there, for about 3 months, I was on an absolute tear with Duolingo, and I was picking stuff up. And even though my speech pattern wasn't that impressive, because, I'm not there, I'm not amongst people, just my ability to look at different ads, from Mexico, which obviously show up on my phone all the time, but just the ability to kind of pick those things up was absolutely amazing. And just be able to read a little bit more and a little bit more. And when you're in Mexico, or again, anywhere else, but with my experience, when you're in Mexico, it's amazing to me that just being there, forcing yourself to interact, it takes away all of that, kind of strange, scary feeling that you might have, because you realize and you recognize that 99% of people, not all people, but about 99% of people, all they want to do is figure out what you're saying so they can do the next thing. And the only time I've actually ever had a negative experience, and you can tell it was negative because it's stuck in my mind the entire time, but the only time I've ever had a negative experience talking with somebody where I was in Progresso, actually, at a store there. The only time was young lady who I realized afterwards that I actually went into this grocery store at closing, and I asked to see if I could get like one of those big jugs of water, and I had no idea what I was saying. I just said agua and pointed like an idiot, and she got frustrated and just kind of looked around, and there was nobody else that spoke any English whatsoever outside of I'm sorry, and I knew lo siento, which is I'm sorry, and so I said that and just walked out of the store. That's my only negative, that's the only time it's ever been negative. Most of the time that you're interacting with individuals in a different place, they are in a service industry. I mean, if you run into somebody on the street, it's different, but if you're talking about a service industry where it's a restaurant, a grocery store, a convenience store, whatever it might be, they're just trying to figure out what you're saying too. And so using a service like Duolingo or Pimsleur, or if you like it, Rosetta Stone, whatever it might be. I just saw one that came up. I think it's called Babbel, was another one that just came up that I saw. But if you utilize a service like that, I think it's a really positive thing, because if nothing else, you kind of get words that you can cue off of. And my wife, who, she always kind of downplays her ability to like speak Spanish in any way, shape, or form, but she's incredible at it. But my wife will go down, and about a week into it, not even that really, but let's say a week into a long stay, all of a sudden she's pretty much able to communicate with pretty much everybody, because she was fluent for quite some time. And she stayed in Guadalajara for a semester in college, and their family had like a beach house too, so she was kind of back and forth on that. But she was forced to interact with people who didn't speak a lick of English, and the family that she was living with spoke English but wouldn't let them speak it in their house because they knew what the point of them staying down there was. So just having that in the back of your mind is amazing to be able to recall it. But for somebody like me, who I took 2 years, 2 years of Spanish, 2 semesters or 2 years, I think it was 2 years, shows you how much I know. But for somebody like me who was never really forced to be fluent, but was just kind of forced to learn it for a grade, which is unfortunate. I really wish I would have taken more advantage of that. But for somebody like me, it was pretty amazing to watch somebody who actually was into it do that. And even my niece, who is excellent, as an excellent student and everything, I think she got a minor in Spanish. Now that I think about it, my wife can speak it better than her. So what's up, Kaylee? Deal with that. No, I'm just kidding. But a little bit. But it is really fascinating to me how quickly we can pick it up, but also how quickly we lose it. Because I feel like I'm actually doing pretty well when I'm down there. Now, I'm nowhere near what my wife is, or what, the people from like Tangerine Travels, or the one who they broke up with, Maddie, or whatever her name was. I'm nowhere near that kind of fluent, but it is nice to be able to kind of go down there and you just get used to it. To me, that's one of the most amazing things that you can do, is combine being down there and using a service like Duolingo or Babbel or whatever works for you and your timing. So anyway, that's my soapbox about learning the language. You could probably tell that I'm really excited to just get back down there, which is crazy. And even on Isla, I know that it'll start to kind of quietly come back, and I'll probably do a bunch of Duolingo as soon as I'm there. So that'll be exciting. Exciting for me, maybe not for everybody, but yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting the way that we just kind of react to going anywhere. I talk constantly about my favorite Mark Twain line about travel, and how it basically allows you to understand people from all over the world, and you start realizing that you have way more in common with them than you don't, I guess. But to me, that's always been a really fascinating thing, especially for the first time that we went to Costa Rica. I mean, you think that you have so little in common with people from all over the world, but the reason that you feel that way is because you're watching the news or you're watching something else. The moment that you go down there, you recognize that you have so much in common with every person there because, they're like human and stuff, and it's pretty fun. The only difference, the only real barrier that you have is the language, and if you learn that, then you're going to put yourself in a really positive position. So, again, dealing with my situation, dealing with all of that, it's really nice to kind of go to a place on a, we'll just say regular basis, not a constant, I was going to say a constant basis, but a regular basis, where you can actually just sit down and get used to it. There are places in the United States that it's easy for me to go to. Like, I always talk about the fact that I love Boston. I absolutely love Boston. It's a super fun town. It's pretty much like nerd paradise for me because I'm a huge American history buff, and what didn't happen there. And so when we go there, it's really fun to be able to kind of go there and enjoy. But what's the reason that it's so easy? Language. If you change the language on me, it might still be fun, but I'm not going to be able to interact the way that I might have been able to otherwise. When you talk about a place that is a Spanish-speaking country, like what we normally talk about on this channel, it's nice to just be able to go and chill and relax and learn. And I know that learn probably sounds a little scary to some people, but at the same time, it's true. You go there and you figure it out. And, when my wife and I just at the end of last year went to Portugal, it was kind of the same thing. I mean, obviously they speak Portuguese, but here's the deal. We're also in a capital city, which meant that they had pretty much everything lined up, and people spoke English, Portuguese, Spanish, French, German, like every language was on the table, which made it a really easy thing to be able to go out and, get tours where the person spoke English or get a car ride where the person spoke English. But you would also run into people that did not speak your language, is what it is. But in a city like that, it was a little bit easier because so many people did speak English, because it was a capital city, because it is a center of, I was going to say learning, and that's not what I meant at all. A political center, whatever you want to call it. in Washington D.C. and New York City, it's much easier to be able to speak a different language than English because there are so many different places that speak that. Here, same thing. But in Merida, that's not the case. You're not in Cancun. You're not in a tourist destination. You're not in Mexico City where it's the capital. You're in a place that's a little bit different. And people who are there, and again, this is why I like the expat community that is there, people that are there for that reason really enjoy that fact. So it's pretty cool. Personally, I like it. I'll just say that. Let's see. We've I can't tell how many minutes we've been going live. Looks like about 29 minutes. Hope you guys are enjoying it. I'm having a good time. If you guys have any questions, obviously, please feel free to type them down below. It's a little bit easier to interact when it's a back and forth, but that's okay because, like I said, I'm more than willing to just continue this conversation by myself. Talking to myself has always been easy. But let's see. Oh, I did want to show you this video real quick. Let me get back to OBS. Let me switch up a bit here so you guys get the window and all that. But I did want to show you this video to see if you guys had seen it on my page. But this is the video of one of the individuals who was a tourist who decided that it would be a great idea to climb the pyramid of Kukulkan in Chichen Itza. And you will see a person, and I don't think they no, they don't really have that part of the video. Might have to go to TMZ for that one. But this individual is being escorted down the pyramid by people who are actually looking out for their best interests. But look at that guy. Oh, man, I missed it. Right there. That guy on the far right. That to me is the most interesting part of this entire thing because that guy on the far right has a giant piece of wood, a giant stick. And I believe in the TMZ video, which on my last video where I talk about Chichen Itza, I have that link on there for the TMZ clip. But he hits that guy straight over the head with that thing for climbing that temple. And I've got to say, it's one of the most satisfying things that you can possibly see. It's a really relaxed, just little whack on the head. Like, hey, maybe don't climb an ancient temple that means a lot to the people of this region. Makes a lot of sense, right? But he delivered vigilante justice, and I've got to be honest with you, I'm all for it. But yeah, you can kind of see him walking around. Two guys that are with the with the enforcement. Oh, there's a better view of him. There's the guy. Yeah. That's the guy that takes that giant sapling and just whacks him over the head. So, if you ever want to be a hero like that guy. Make sure that if somebody climbs an ancient temple where it's illegal to climb up because you climbing up it has actually damaged the pyramid, sometimes you got to give him a good whack. I'm probably going to get demonetized for saying that because they're going to say something like I was positive about violence or something. But yeah, I mean, this isn't anything, you would think just watching this. And again, the thing that I talk about in the video was a little bit frustrating for me. And that was, I can see people seeing a video where it says tourist gets assaulted by man with stick in Mexico and it being all over the news as some like horrific thing. It's like, no, man, watch the video. Okay. Like there's a reason for it. Hey Matthew, how's it going, man? You may have mentioned this, but back in the 80s and 90s, there was a chain running down the pyramid and it was encouraged. You could also climb inside. Yeah, no, yeah, there's, that's a good, and I said this in the video, you used to be able to do that. And I think, I can't remember which one it is. I don't think it's Uxmal, but there are a few other pyramids that have a similar thing, whether it's a rope or a chain, and it was encouraged, but they figured out that like it was actually damaging the steps because so many people were there because it is so popular. So they cut it off. And when you go up to the top, there's like an actual seat that's a jaguar. And so people would want to go on there and sit on it and all that kind of thing. And it was just one of those. I felt like I switched off of that. Come on. Sorry, my computer's behind. But yeah, no, you're 100% right that it was. But people want to go up there. The problem is that it is now illegal. and and you notice with every single person that does that, and I mentioned this in the video, they're all kind of clout chasers. They're all people that are up there like filming themselves, like look at me so they can post it on Instagram. Um, and like I said in the video too, I'm on YouTube with a camera in front of me. It's not like I can say too much about content creation or anything like that. But, when you do something that's illegal, there's probably a price to pay. So a little wacky stick isn't too bad. Matthew, good, we'll meet up when we down there. I've had a house in Central for 10 years. Crazy how the popularity of Merida has exploded. You're not kidding, Matthew. It's one of those things where I've been accused several times, we'll say, on different platforms of kind of encouraging, like, talking about it. And it's always weird for me for people that are like, we try to keep this a secret. It's like, this is a city of 1 million people. It's becoming popular for expats, but the other thing it's becoming popular for is for people that are from different parts of Mexico that are not immigrating but emigrating into Merida for one of 1,000 different reasons. But yeah, I mean, when we found Merida, 3 years ago, or I guess a little bit more, we thought it was kind of an off the beaten path thing. I'd never heard of it. And my wife, who had, been in Mexico more than me, said that she had heard of it, but we didn't know anything really about it. And we stayed on the beach, so we were kind of away from everything. But I think you're right. I mean, even in the last 3 years since we've been there, I'll say that the number of people that I hear that are traveling there, that are going there, the number of developments that have continued to rise up, even just walking down the streets, it's kind of crazy to me to see all the just little mini like boutique hotels that are popping up. I mean, there's obviously places like the Hyatt and that kind of thing, but when it comes to the actual like smaller places where it's a little bit easier to build them out, make them a little bit nicer and run them, I feel like I see those not just in Merida, but I see them all over Progreso. We went on a couple of the back streets in Progreso the last time we were there just to, get ice cream for the kids, see the beach, that kind of thing. And it felt like I know I walked by 4 like boutique hotels that were going up and one that was actually a bigger hotel. So yeah, the popularity of the place is, I don't want to say out of control because that makes it sound like a negative, but it's definitely being discovered more and more. The positive is, especially with stuff like with the Mayan train and everything, I think it's going to be a hub for people who are traveling the entire peninsula as opposed to just going down and getting crazy. I think there's going to be a lot more tourism than there is people going to live there, because I do think that one of the negatives about Merida being like, it's so hot and blah blah blah, is that it pushes people into other areas. But as far as visiting, I definitely think it's going to be huge. So thank you for commenting, by the way, Matthew. It's awesome. Appreciate it, man. But Merida's growth is going to be really interesting. Like the Parque La Plancha, and what's the other one? Parque Tijo. I think that's, if I remember right, I was just talking about this one, but I think it's in Alta Brisa. But all the different things that are popping up, whether it's in, the real historic district or whether it's kind of to the north, it's really crazy how much stuff is going up. I mean, the stadium doesn't look like it's going to happen. It might, but it doesn't look like it's going to be anytime soon. But just the amount of infrastructure that they're trying to put in to, kind of build up a lot of areas that have seen a lot of growth, but don't really have an anchor, I guess is what I'm trying to say. It's pretty impressive. And when you have I'm sure people will dislike government for whatever reason in this particular regard, but it is very impressive to see, a government that's at least understanding that there is a need to kind of build things up to beautify certain areas to get the growth going there. And boy, it seems like Yucatan kind of has that nailed with regard to their capital city. So I hope that continues. It looks like it is, but you never know. It's I'm not the perfect person to talk about with that. I mean, I literally ran as a libertarian one year. So government has always been kind of a love-hate relationship, but it does feel like they have a good idea of what they need to do. But just like in the last video, one of the things that I talked about was, or the last live stream, is I don't know what's going to happen because I feel like anybody who's walked through the historic district recognizes that there are certain things that probably need to be addressed in infrastructure that haven't yet. And I literally have an entire video where I talk about the streets of Merida, and that video isn't talking about like the mean streets of Merida and what to expect. It's literally about like the sidewalks. So yeah, Matthew, I don't want to hog the chat, but I find interesting that Merida is different things for expats, historics, and modern North golf areas. I totally agree. And the thing is, so Matthew, I actually have a question for you because this is one of the things that kind of drove me a little crazy 2 years ago. When you talk about golf areas, if you have experience with it, I would love to hit you up and talk about it, because I felt like even though there are golf areas, it is tough to get into them. Whether it's because I just didn't know the path, didn't know who to call, but I felt like every single time I tried to call to get, it was my father-in-law, into a golf course there, I was having a real difficult time getting them in. So if you have any suggestions, I'd love to hear them, because that was one of the most frustrating things is like I see these like beautiful courses that they've got, especially, you know, in the north area, and we couldn't get them in. So, and maybe I just didn't have the right number. I was talking to the wrong person, but I'd love to hear more if you know. Tim, what's going on? Good to see you. Go Chiefs, go. Yes. Chiefs Kingdom, baby. I am nervous. Like I said on the last stream, and I know you were here for it, I'm a huge Jalen Hurts fan. I hate the fact that we have to play him, but I am very excited. I think it's going to be a good game. I have my opinions about how it's going to go, but at week 10 and from that point on, I've kind of been proven wrong, because I pretty much said, like, we have the greatest quarterback in the NFL. I don't think we're good enough to win the Super Bowl, and yet we're in the Super Bowl. So to me, it's a win no matter what. I feel like we're way further than we did, but thank you for saying that. That's awesome. JPS, do you find public works projects to be well made? When you see a municipal CRE fixing something, pothole, sidewalk, etc., do they usually do a good job? That I... Also, please expand on the difference of the vibe between Central Merida versus Centro, specifically Santiago. I might need a bit of a clarification on the, unless I'm reading that wrong, I'm sorry, between Central Merida versus Centro, specifically Santiago. So Centro is kind of the area of Merida that's just like around in the Periférico. El Norte is the northern part of that, but like the historic area is the different neighborhoods like Santiago. So, and I could be confusing a couple of things, but as far as the first thing that you said, do you find public works projects to be well made? When you see municipal CRE fixing something, do they usually do a good job? So here's the thing. From what I've seen, yes, when something needs to be fixed, I haven't seen them do a bad job. And you see this stuff all over the city. The problem is that there are so many different areas that need, this is going to sound bad for somebody who is like a little bit right of center when it comes to government. But when you see the stuff that they fix, yes, it does seem like they normally fix it correctly. The problem is that there are so many areas in Merida, especially again with the sidewalks, that are just not conforming at all. And like Las Americas is just well known as a place that floods all the time, and there are areas like that all over the place. When you're dealing with a water table as thin as Merida is, where it's basically a foot over, what am I trying to say? Losing my mind today. You can tell that I'm dealing with a game tomorrow. But when you're talking about a foot over sea level, like the water is right below. So you're going to get flooding no matter what. And when they repair stuff, it does appear to be very good. The problem is, like, our sidewalk was our responsibility and we fixed it, but we are literally centimeters above the road. And so we had to build up a step into our house so that if our road ever flooded, it wouldn't flood into our house, or at least it would be very minor. Odd to think about it that way, but that's what we did. There are so many sidewalks and so many roads that have just been built and built and built over time that you have roads where, and I talked about this last time on the live stream, you can go straight up to the next street and try to look around and you can't see anything, and it's just a stop sign, so you're hoping nobody's coming that way. There are things that they could do, and they've actually made progress in that. They've installed a lot more street lights with a lot more walking guy versus hand, or I think it's like a walking red guy and a walking green guy. It's weird, but there are things that they do that are really positive. The problem is that they just have so much to deal with that if they ever wanted to make it a slightly conforming system, it's going to be hundreds of millions of dollars, in my opinion. I could be wrong, but the sidewalks, you could go from a foot tall sidewalk to a centimeter sidewalk like we have. So when they fix things, yes, it seems like they do a good job. The problem is the amount that they still have to fix. Long-winded answer. Sorry about that. Matthew, yeah, you have to be a member, I believe, and I am. Property manager's husband is a member. Know someone. I like it. I need to create a Facebook group that is literally I know somebody at the golf court, Matthew, so that we can get people in, because that's huge. And hopefully I can get a sponsorship for them, and I can talk about them all the time on this site so that they let me in, so that my father-in-law actually comes down and stays with us again, because he was very disappointed about the golfing situation. Central versus North Merida. Yeah, that's not a problem. So the difference of vibe between like the central part of Merida, the historic center, and the north area. CREM and crew. All right, I'm going to answer. Let me try to answer this real quick here. So central Merida versus north. So it's a pretty easy distinction. Northern Merida is really, like, the main thing that you'll hear from people is that it's just a lot more modern. It's going to sound bad that I say this, but I'm going to bring out all of the random examples. It's like, that's where you've got the Texas Roadhouse. That's where you have two malls. That's where the Costco is. That's where some of the tallest, condo structures are. If you go, and I can't remember the name of it, but if you go all the way to the north on Paseo de Mateo and whatever that turns into, and then you go east on the Periférico, there's another area that's well developed that has like a large kind of outdoor shopping mall. Got a really nice liquor store, which is of course how I know about it. But it's just more modern. It's newer. The problem is that there are some areas where they did a really good job of all of that. The negative is that there are still areas that have issues with infrastructure that wasn't built properly during the time of building. So the best example recently was the Harbor Mall. So we went there on our first trip, and it is a beautiful, modern, large mall. It has a place called Hamburguesia, I think that's what it's called. I could be wrong there, but Hamburguesa, that kind of thing. But it has an amazing hamburger place, and I absolutely loved it. They didn't have the coldest beer, which is a little bit of a problem when you're in a warm environment, but had amazing food, a great place, and half of it wasn't open. But after we left there the first time, it flooded because they had issues because, again, the water table's so high, they put in other systems, and I'm sure there's a longer explanation that I could ever give. But you kind of see stuff like that. It's like they build fast, and then you never know. Now, Liverpool, the mall that's just south of there, I don't think has had a problem. And the Costco that's there, we went to, and it was absolutely amazing. And I always hate bringing up, like, Walmart and Costco because people normally accuse me of, like, pushing things that I'm used to. But just out of pure convenience, sometimes it's nice to go to places like that. But that's kind of the difference, is that the north part within or around the Periférico, which again is the street that runs around, or the highway that runs around the entire city, it's just more modern, it's more build up. Whereas like where I am, even though I'm not necessarily in the area by like Plaza Grande, Santiago, Santa Ana, the Parque de Santa Lucia, those areas which are really traditional. They've got the buildings that when you type in Merida, Mexico, you see on the pictures. I'm a little bit further away from that, but it still looks very similar. So you don't have the modern stuff. And even if you go into a place that is modern, like a restaurant or something like that, the exterior, the facade still looks older. So that's the biggest difference, is they really try to keep that historic center lower, if you will, like short, like 1 story, 2 stories, and more historically accurate to what it used to be and still is. And the northern part is where you'll see modern things and buildings that kind of look like you could go anywhere in the United States and you'd see them there. I mean, the Harbor Mall literally looks like they just took a mall, lifted it up, and threw it in Merida from, hell, Kansas City or Houston or somewhere like that. So, municipal infrastructure getting worse year on year. Is it roughly stable? They keep it functioning barely. Why did you choose Central Merida versus North? Malls less touristy. Loving the explanation. Center is a bit more valuable versus North just a bit. So yes and no. So I think what I would say as far as Centro versus North, as far as value is concerned, and I'll get to one of your other questions in a second. North is probably more valuable in a different area, and I didn't expand on one thing. When you go even further north, there are certain neighborhoods like what we were talking about with the golf course. I think there's a golf course, and Matthew, tell me if I'm wrong here, but I think there's a golf course called like the Jaguar or something like that, and then there's another big one. They're kind of the two main ones. But when you go north, I would say that there are places that are more expensive than some of the places that you could get in Centro, for sure. Even a place that's renovated. The problem in for the size, but it's kind of like, if you have let's say you're in Florida and you've got a beach house and it's just kind of a shack, but then there's a condo next to you that's like super modern and nice. You might have a condo that's smaller but beautiful and it's a little bit more expensive than the shack, but a lot of people want the shack. I'm not trying to say anything negative about Centro. They're not full of shacks. I can attest to that for sure. But when it comes to the actual value of homes, just because there is a finite amount of homes within certain areas, you can definitely say that they are more valuable in Centro. But it's a real interesting exchange with that, because the places in the north part are newer, they can be fancier, they can have more modern amenities. Give me a second, my kids are right here. Hey, you want to give me hugs?
Yeah.
Cool.
We love you.
Love you too.
No,
Want to say hi? Hey, love you.
you too. Hi.
All right. All right, head back upstairs. Thank you, boys. Good job. And you guys can watch something if you want to put it on, okay? All right. Yeah, that's fine. Bye. Guys. Sorry about that, guys. So anyway, when you talk about that, that's what I'm trying to say, is that you've got kind of the more modern amenities up there. Some places that are, and I say condos. I mean, there are houses that are further north of Merida in kind of planned communities, but the Centro area is just like anything else. Like when I think of Kansas City, I think about Leawood, Kansas has places that are new, modern, pretty, but much smaller yards. But I could take you to certain areas of, central Kansas City, even areas like Hyde Park, Brookside, that the houses are bigger, the yards are bigger, but they're the same value, if that makes sense. So I'm sorry if that's a bit of a roundabout explanation, but it's just, it really all depends on what you're looking for. If you want to be around kind of like what we did, and ours too, keep in mind, was we knew the people who were just visiting would probably want to be closer to the historic area than they would north. So that would help us with rental. But even still, we weren't planning on anything. If we were taking our kids down, for instance, and we wanted them to be in a school, the Madison School down there is one of the areas that's just north of the Periférico. So we'd probably move into one of those areas, which is just a planned community. That not being the case, we're in the historic center. So let's see. You had another question here, JPS. Let me see real quick if I've got this. Municipal infrastructure getting worse year on year, or is it roughly stable? They keep it functioning barely. I would say stable. Stable is right. And the reason that I say stable is because even though there are small areas where there may be a problem here and there, I said Las Americas. I mean, that's kind of the famous example of just a place that floods. But enough, like they do enough to where nothing really seems to change, nothing seems to get worse. But with projects like the stadium, with projects like the giant tower that they were thinking about putting in, one of the biggest concerns is that when these big projects go in, what happens to the infrastructure because they don't feel like it's being built properly? Oddly, and of course, they don't get built. And so I can't say that it gets worse year by year. You can probably find somebody who knows a little bit more than I do about like what they've seen in different areas. But my assumption would be that, hi boys, sorry. Hey, you guys have to go upstairs, okay?
No, the TV is broken. It's not turning on.
Okay, you guys need to try to fix it then. Okay?
Okay.
So when you're talking about that, I'm sorry, I'm getting thrown off of my rhythm here, but those don't end up actually happening, which I think is a positive thing because they don't push the infrastructure in a negative way, especially in the north, where that has the ability to happen because it just doesn't have that much. And those are probably the areas that have the most reason to be concerned because that's where it happens most of the time. In Centro, and you'd have to talk to somebody, and Tim, who's normally here, probably has a better way of explaining this than I do, but Tim can probably explain a little bit more about how the like the septic systems and the water systems work within each house. And as you continue to build out those houses like we did, that has the ability to kind of help with the infrastructure on the historic center because it's not like a traditional neighborhood where you've got like main lines going one way or another. So our house, we redid everything, and I think that helped probably the overall neighborhood because we're not an individual stressor like some others might be. So let's see. Centro's more walkable. Let's see. North Mall's less touristy. Loving the explanation. Centro is much more walkable versus North, or just a bit. Centro is way more walkable. And the easiest way to show that is to get dropped off anywhere in the North area. And there are some areas, like I say North, meaning like north, like heading towards Progresso, that like kind of shallow area there. There are obviously neighborhoods closer to the north area. Again, I bring this up again, but I think Alta Brisa is kind of north and east, and it's fairly walkable. But as far as like the actual north, where we're talking about having, more modern development, yeah, it's not even close. Centro is so much more easily walkable. I can walk 2 blocks down to a market, 3 blocks to a kind of general supermarket, get all of my stuff around, and then I'm still a 15-minute walk from, Plaza Grande and all that kind of stuff. Centro is without question, historic center is without question more walkable than the north. Again, if you're used to having a car and driving everywhere, like if you're from Kansas City and the first time that you visit Merida is to go to the north, and you're used to driving everywhere, not a big deal because you're just used to it because that's what Kansas City is. It's a driving city. But if you're used to being in, say, New York and you're able to walk within 3 blocks and get everything that you can possibly need, Historic Center is going to be your spot. And personally, I just like it because even though I'm in Kansas City, I still like the ability to be able to do all that stuff and not need a car and so on and so forth. Let's see. What would a typical cap rate after expense without mortgage be for residential in Centro? I'm glad you like the family, JPS. Thank you. Yeah, they're up from naps and they're Spider-Man and Sobble, who's a Pokemon, so that's fun. Cap rate, I'd have to look at it. I mean, I'd tell you what mine was, but I'd really have to kind of put the numbers into it with all the stuff. And even though I'm a real estate investor, I'll be honest on my thought process on stuff like cap rate. I go really back and forth on how I try to address it. Which, by the way, if you guys are here, first of all, thank you for being here. And if you don't mind, please like the video. I'd appreciate that. It helps us get out and blah, blah, blah. But thank you for liking the video. But as far as cap rate's concerned, I always go back and forth because, with as far as like that, cash on cash return, everything, I know the numbers and I know how to do it. But with regard to the actual investment in this, it's so complicated, especially because of the exchange rate. But everything is so much different. So I'll tell you what I'll do. And this is the reason I have this here. I will, in the description in this live stream, which will still be available, I will calculate out my cap rate and put it in the description of the live stream so that you guys have it. So it'll be probably just under the description once I get it. But I go back and forth because for us, like cap rate doesn't really matter a lot because if you're thinking about it on a yearly basis, well, we take a month out. So if I do it on an 11-month basis, that's fine. But when you're talking about something that's an Airbnb or a month to month, cap rate starts becoming real wonky because it can show you what a real heavy month looks like as opposed to a real light month. So what I'll do is I will put in the assumed cap rate for you guys, and I'll put it in the description below. It'll probably be available maybe 24 hours after this, before the Chiefs game. So that's what I'll say, JPS. If you don't mind, sorry about that. Way better infrastructure than 10 years ago, Matthew, 100%. Wi-Fi used to be 10 to 12 megabits a second. Yeah, Wi-Fi was a big thing for me. So I can't remember what the name of the company was, and I really wish I did. But there's a company down there that says that they can get gigabit internet, but they're only in certain areas of the city. We ended up going with, oh shoot, it's one of the main ones. It wasn't what I thought. It's like a wireless company name down there. But we ended up going with theirs, and we get about 50 megabits a second. Positive is it's pretty constant. I have Wi-Fi going all over the house, which I did a video on. But 50 megabits a second, I think I dipped down to 45 I have a mesh Wi-Fi network, and in the furthest area, which is of course my master bedroom, I dipped down to 45 megabits a second. So it might not be as fast as say here where I've got gigabit, but at the same time, it's at least constant and pretty good. I've heard that they can kind of go out every once in a while, but we've had pretty good luck so far. But you're right, it does get better every year. Great explanation. Also, thank you, Matt. It adds context a decade ago. Appreciate it, Matthew. In my experiences, only Centro. Yep. JPS, I plan on RO with storage tank above the home. Water issues moved in. Either penetration from groundwater issues, water supply. So JBS, the water. If you're talking about the water issues from the video the videos that I've showed or the live streams that I've talked about this. So here's what happened. We had just moved in. We had 2 big rains. Actually, we had 3 big rainstorms. By the third, it was figured out. The first one, I should have known that something was going to go wrong because we actually had our washer dry. Yes, Matthew, by the way, I just saw that you put that Total Play. Yeah, 45 megabits a second. They said Total Play had a gigabit internet service. We have not been able to get it, but 50 has worked out fine. But to get back to it, the issues that we had were nothing to do with groundwater. Our issues had to do with the construction materials being in some of the down pipes, like into some of the pipes where the water was supposed to exit into. So for instance, the first thing that happened before anything else was that we had our washer back up, which I said last time on the live stream, it ticked me off because it scratched part of the brand new washer that we had. But whatever, it's still functional. Who cares? Something was going to happen anyway. But basically just construction material got down there. Concrete, paint, that kind of stuff. So they dremelled that, or they got that out, they drilled it out, and once that happened, it drained perfectly, no issues. The next problem was that we had the same kind of thing where there was construction material, and this was the 2 times where the it went through the air conditioner, which was really fun, and they know that they have to replace it if it goes out anytime soon. But it went down into the place where it should have been, into the drain, but it hit construction material, found the next place that it could go into, flooded the upstairs, did all that, and then it went through the AC. They fixed that, they thought, the first time, but the problem was, and I've dealt with this on other situations, just not here, or I would have been able to say it immediately. But basically what happens sometimes is you kind of get an airlock in your drainage system. So all that water goes down, and it's supposed to go into, our drain that we have that is purpose-built for that. What it did, though, was that water came up and the airlock within the system started. So there's air here, and then all that water hit and had nowhere to go because it couldn't get around the airlock. So then it just went straight back up, flooded again. What they ended up doing was getting a pipe that would go down far enough to take that air and expel it out so that the water would then come back in. It's complicated. It's annoying. We are still making them watch every single week to make sure that there's no issues with anything that happened on those floors. Thank God they're tile. But that's what occurred, was that they basically just had construction materials in the drainage, which is frustrating, but I can tell you from somebody who's dealt with new construction his entire life, it happens all the time. And then an airlock where they literally just put a pipe into our courtyard and it fixed the situation. Yes, buddy? I can help you, yes. Give me 1 second, guys, sorry.
Who are you talking to, Dad?
There you go. All right, go upstairs. Talking to people that are watching, buddy. So that was basically it. It's not a huge deal. It's not a big issue at all, but it's just something that if you're on the job, I would just say 100% make sure that when they do that or when you move in, tell them to just clear out all the lines and make sure that it's okay. Let's see. Plan on ROs. Central. Yep, JPS, if you're looking for walkable, I definitely recommend the Historic Center above anything else. I mean, even if you're talking about, like, you go to Progresso, which I know is not in Merida proper, but that's probably the most walkable. But if you're thinking about making it walkable, there's some amazing areas there. You don't even have to be in Santa Ana or Santiago for that. So that's just something to think about. Matthew, every house has 1 or 2 Tanacos or water containers to help with pressure. Yep, exactly. Ours were just having some issues. Okay, makes sense. Repressure. Tim, I'm glad you're still here, man. Good to see you. I put in a pressurized water system. City water pressure is way less than what you probably expect. Many other expats do the same. Yep, I agree with Tim. Water pressure can be a huge issue. Ours is not one at all. The water system was one of the main things that was a big concern with us. We've not had the best luck with water getting into the house, but we also have been very lucky in our lives with having good water pressure. And that was one of the things that we told Henry was when we figured out that he could put in a reverse osmosis system to make sure that we had purified water at certain points in the house. That was ludicrously important just because it's so much easier. But then to have pressurized water so that you can take showers and it actually takes the shampoo out of your hair, big positive. GPS, no problem. Happy to wait. Recap rate. Sorry for giving you homework. Don't worry about that. That's what I'm here for. Like, I love giving you guys information. I'm happy to do it. I wish I had it right now. It's just, like I said, it's one of those situations where I've dealt with it forever. I mean, I've had a ton of rental property and everything like that, and every time I think about cap rate, it kind of makes my head spin because I'm like, yeah, it was good this month, but not next. But I will put it in the description below. Just look for it before next before tomorrow, and I'll have it there for sure. Total play 45. Yep, and I can't remember what mine is, Matthew. It's one of the main ones. If you named off 5, I'd be able to tell you which. I just can't really remember it right now. Joke of Merida is that it takes 3 trips by a professional to fix something. The most hilarious thing, Matthew, is you're 100% right because it literally took 3 trips. And for the crew that built the house, like, it was just one of those things like, we'll see if this works. Nope, we'll see if this works. Nope, we'll see if this works. Yep, okay, cool. And then it was fine. Never had another issue. And we had way bigger rainstorms that 3rd and 4th and 5th time than we did for the first 2. But when water can't escape, water can't escape. First time gum and tape, second time cheap product, third time fixed with the correct material. Yeah, I mean, and I think that's a good. I like that. I'm gonna have to steal that. But I also think that's one of the egos with construction because I know this again from me. Like, I did it right, and then you go back and you go, I didn't do it right. I probably should have done it right. That's unfortunate. But as long as it gets fixed, I don't care. And as long as there was no long-term damage, I don't care. And luckily, we had all the air conditioners in the world to take out all the humidity, all the water was taken out very quickly. And again, this is why you pay somebody a premium, because when we called, they were there within 15 minutes, and they were from all over the city. So that was okay. We at least got taken care of. JPS improper, are installed, aggregate surrounding drainage and or additional venting required for drainage. Got it. And so helpful. I'm glad it's helpful, man. Like I said, it's like anything else. If you build a house and then you build another one, the second one's going to be better, but you're still going to run into issues. So I'm more than happy to tell you everything that happened. But yeah, any type of venting in a water type, like in a water drainage atmosphere, is super helpful. I mean, think about it like a gas tank. Like when you pour a gas tank and it doesn't have the little top thing that allows for air pressure to get out, it's slow because it's slowly trying to like get it out, but there's not enough like reverse pressure to suck it down. The moment that you pop that air filter, it goes down immediately. That's exactly what happened, only in the reverse way for us. So yeah, I definitely make sure that whoever does build, if you guys do that, make sure they know that. Schedule the repairman 3 times in one day. Would it be more efficient? It might be more efficient. The nice thing is that almost everyone I've met or worked with down there are really lovely, super helpful, and willing to come back to fix something. Yep, that's been my experience too. I can't say that I've had like that everybody I've worked with has done that because we really have, kind of the one contact, but um, it's definitely one of those situations where when somebody comes out, they recognize that it's not functioning as opposed to trying to blame the owner for the issue, which I think is huge. I've had stuff like that happen in the city, in Kansas City, where somebody will come out and they'll look at me like, well, it's your fault that it's not working. And it's like, dude, I have owned more houses. I know you've worked on more houses than I have probably, but I've owned more houses than you. I know how things work. So it's nice to see that. Glad to hear. My impression without having traveled there, we go next month, is that the culture of Merida is very friendly and kind of laid back. Yeah. Um, Probably the best is that it's very friendly. The culture is incredible. The people that are in Merida are some of the best that I've seen anywhere. I mean, we were in Manuel Antonio, Costa Rica, and then they had kind of the main city, which was Capos, which is inland, kind of in a big, beautiful valley. And in those two areas, the people were absolutely amazing. When you go to certain places, especially more touristy destinations, a lot of times you'll see you'll have like really good interactions with people like staff or whatever it might be, but then you're walking around the streets and everybody's kind of used to it being a tourist destination. I equate it to something like when you've got 10 million people in Manhattan as opposed to 500,000 in downtown Kansas City. Because of the pandemic, things that sorry guys, I just saw that my OBS disconnected for a second, so I apologize if I went off air for a minute. But but yeah, it's a great place. I mean, I'm trying to think of like how to explain it, but every single time we have been down there, we have yet to have like a bad interaction, and I hope it never happens. I mean, I have you run into people that you don't want to see ever again every once in a while, but it's a pretty laid back atmosphere. It's a relaxed atmosphere. The worst you're gonna get is like going to Plaza Grande because you have to go, but it's definitely the place that everybody knows tourists go. So you're gonna get hassled a bit and asked to buy some stuff. But in all honesty, if you can just kind of say no gracias, no gracias, you're gonna be just fine, and it's a really fun place to be. Matthew, definitely. Just remember that they are Yucatecan first, Mexican second. Proud of their Mayan heritage. That's 100% right, Matthew. Could not have said it better myself. And it's kind of amazing. I haven't experienced this yet, obviously, but I have heard from many friends and a lot of people that I've interacted with on because of this channel and otherwise, that when you talk about Yucatecans, when you talk about individuals there, everybody else from Mexico is kind of like, yeah, they're a little like not a bad thing, just one of those like everybody recognizes that like there's Mexico and then there's the Yucatan. And in all honesty, I absolutely love that. It's one of my every time I think about that, it just puts a smile on my face because it means that you have an area where the people are very proud of where they're from, who they are, and what their heritage is. And being somebody that's from the United States and having kind of the mutt that I am, where I'm Irish and Welsh and Croatian, and my heritage is being from Missouri, from Kansas City, from the United States, but the true heritage of a lot of the Yucatecans is in them being Mayan, and I think that's a really cool thing to be able to have. If I could look back and say like and this happens in the World Cup because I'm ridiculous, but when Croatia starts getting up there in the World Cup, like USA has already been kicked out, I'm always Croatian next. So that's one of those things. Sounds good. I speak near fluent Spanish, learned in Cuba, and my fiance is a native Spanish speaker. Compared to Spanish spoken in other countries, do you find the accent of Merida easy to understand? Yeah, JPS, you and Matthew are having a good conversation. I wish I could take this and make an entire video out of it. Which, by the way, if you're still here, please feel free to like the video. I'd appreciate it. But everything you guys are saying is 100% right. When you go into Yucatan, the Spanish that you've learned anywhere else in the world is a little bit different, and it's because they have a lot of the language that they've had for years. They just blend it in, and from what I've heard, and Matthew, you can probably tell me better than anybody else can, but from what I've heard, and thank you, JPS, I appreciate that. I just say it for new people. Just ignore it if you've already done it. I appreciate it, but from what I've heard, in Merida, you might get a bit more of like not traditional Spanish, like Mexican Spanish, but when you go outside of the city, especially like when you go to some of the cenotes and stuff like that, and you go through some of those small towns, you're gonna hear some Spanish that doesn't exactly sound like Spanish. There's an interesting blend of languages, but somebody who's actually been there and lived there can probably tell you better. But that's what I've been told from pretty much every guide, every person that I've interacted with down there, because I'm always curious about that. It's like, I'm going to go through all of this learning and, be fluent in Spanish, hopefully one day, knock on wood. And all of a sudden, I'm not going to be able to speak it down here because it's so much different. And they say that you'll still be able to speak it. There's just a few pieces, like he was saying, lots of X's, or it's just a little different. So it's all worth it though. Matthew, can be different in the villages. You're 100% correct. Yes! I'm 100% correct on something. Thank you. Yeah, and those villages are really interesting. Like, when we were driving through to go to the cenote, the Santa Barbara cenotes, which, by the way, is a wonderful place to go if anybody's ever been. But some of the towns are just really cool and really interesting. They're just smaller places, but you can definitely tell that they're not, like, they have their own feel, their own flavor. And that is not, outside of a few different spots, I should say, that is not the way I feel about where I'm from. Like, it's a lot different feeling, is what I'll say. Is that when you go through some of those spots, it's like they're proud of their city, they're proud of their town, and Merida is just kind of a town that's a part of Yucatan. And if you look at the states, like the way that the state is broken up, and I don't know if they call them, I don't think they call them counties, I think they call them something else. But if you look at the way that they're broken up, you can kind of tell that that's the case. Like, this is where we identify more than here, here, and here. So that's pretty cool. Tim, it is too bad Google Translate doesn't do Mayan. One of my only has a little Spanish I do, and I suck. He speaks mostly Mayan. That's pretty cool. There's got to be some type of program that does Mayan, though, right? I mean, there's one that does. Jesus, I'm a Game of Thrones fan, and there's Duolingo allows you to learn High Valyrian. So I've got to imagine there's something that we can find. If not, create it, right? Create it, sell it to Google, make $1 billion, and you'll be good to go. And by the way, thank you for everybody that's been a part of this live stream. It's been really awesome. Obviously, you can tell that my kids are up. They're doing fine on their own, dressing up as Spider-Man and Sobble. So I'm still going to be on here for quite some time. But I just want to say thank you guys for being on here. I'm not going to be able to do anything tomorrow at all, and probably Monday because of this thing right here. But Monday's probably going to be rough. If we win, it will be even more rough with my head. It'll be really rough if we lose on my heart, but, it is what it is. We've been there a few times in the last few years, and I went for 3 decades and never saw us in a Super Bowl, so I'm good. JPS, the main question we are facing is, could you see yourself raising a family there if you were 30 with no kids? I know, difficult question. Heard anything about quality of private schools there? So what I will say is this. So this is complicated, but I will tell you my exact situation. If we were not so close to our family, if we had family that was like living in the villages in Florida and we weren't close to brothers and sisters and stuff like that, I can tell you without a doubt, 100% factual, that we would already be in Merida, but we would not be in our current house. The reason for that is in one of the areas that, and I think it's the area that has the Jaguar golf course. I should just look it up, but whatever. Um, One of the areas is kind of a planned community to the north of Merida. Is it has a school called the Madison School, and they're, from what I have seen, from the reviews I have read, they appear to be a very good school that kind of blends, you come in speaking English, you're gonna learn Spanish. Like, that's just a fact. But they have courses that allow, like, they kind of have built it as, if you come in learning English, you're gonna be learning Spanish too, but we're gonna make sure that your transition is easy. And I would say with 100% accuracy that if our family was in different locations, if we weren't as close as we currently are, we would already be living down there. What I cannot tell you is that if we had our current home, that we would do the same thing. Because the truth of the matter is, the fact of the matter is, I just don't know, and I haven't seen any schools that would be perfect in our particular situation that are close enough to us to justify doing that. So we're lucky in a sense that we have a plan to be down there for all or most of the year eventually, but we did that because we kind of knew we were so close to our family. So if you're looking at Centro, what I would say is either figure out a situation where you can drive up to a school like that, or research the hell out of it on a channel that unfortunately isn't mine. But that's kind of our scenario. We would 100% be down there, just probably not in our current situation. And if we were, we would probably have to, get a car, drive them up there, drive them back, or somebody that's more informed than us could send us a school and say, this is a good one for people in your situation. And that would be the case. But that's just the 100% honest answer from me. Let's see. There are more translate apps that do Klingon than do Mayan. That's probably one of the saddest facts, Tim, I've ever heard, is that there are more translate apps that do Klingon than Mayan. Unless you're watching The Big Bang Theory, and then, of course, they're big fans of it. Matthew, a couple of things tend to bother gringos. There can be trash in places that we're not used to, cenotes, and there can be street dogs and cats. That's true. The street dogs and cats are interesting. The cats, I don't think, at least from my experience, the cats haven't bothered anybody. But I do have a picture on my Instagram from, it'd be about a year and a half, 2 years ago, of a roaming gang of street dogs that I found hilarious, but everybody else in my group was kind of freaked out about because they look like Mexican street dogs. There's little bitty kind of mutt puppies, but yeah, they could be intimidating. They don't do anything. They just bark at other dogs, but yeah, they do. And then the trash in places, that's true. The cenotes, that's weird. I haven't seen that yet, but it's not like I've been to every cenote. The trash in places is weird, though, because when you think about living in the historic center, trash service is like 3 days a week. I can't remember if it's like Monday, Thursday, Friday, or Monday, Thursday, Saturday, whatever. But you just put your trash bags out in front of your house, and the trash company will come by, and they'll take the trash and all that. But you'll just one day kind of wake up and there's just trash bags everywhere in the city. They're going to get picked up, but it's a little bit weird. The interesting thing to me was that there are people that will walk around and they'll get the cans out of your bags. So like we always separate, trash and, aluminum and stuff like that. But there were people that would come around and they would just take all the beer cans and pop cans. It's beer cans, cerveza. But they'd take all those cans out and they would separate them. So that was, and they like put your trash back and everything like that. But it was a weird thing. Like you just kind of have to get used to the trash service there. And once you do, it's not a big deal at all. But that was a very surprising thing. It was like somebody going through your trash, not for a bad reason, just to get the cans out. So something to think about. Let's see. Good points. We're going to PV also for a few weeks. And after a few weeks at Merida, the two current contenders. We have a small dog. Will he be attacked if we take him for a walk? No, your dog won't be attacked. There are so many dogs that are walking around out there. And in all honesty, it depends on, like I say the roaming gang of street dogs. That was a joke. Like a dog would walk by on Paseo de Mateo. These dogs were a block away, just kind of chipping. But no, they won't be attacked. You see dogs everywhere in Merida. Like in Progresso, in Merida, and people running with them, walking with them, all kinds of stuff. I mean, it's kind of like anywhere else in the world. Like, obviously, be safe and be smart, but for the most part, no. I have not seen a single, dog attacked outside of, like, I do think I saw two dogs on leashes that kind of went after each other, but that's to me like just the owners not understanding the situation. But no, for the most part, like, you see dogs all the time running with their owners and stuff like that, so your dog will be fine. No big deal there. Here's the golf course Monday, Wednesday, Friday, $40 a year, property taxes. I'm gonna take a picture of that. Sorry. Give me a second. Awesome. Thank you for that. Really appreciate it. Again, that was one of those things I was telling my father-in-law, like, I know they've got golf courses down there and we could not get him into one. I'll pay a lot per year. So I don't care. It doesn't matter as long as I can get people in there. And it doesn't need to be people that are staying at our place or anything like that. It just needs to be like people that are with us. Like, that's the biggest thing for me. But Puerto Vallarta, JPS, out of pure curiosity, what's the reason that you're looking at Puerto Vallarta? I mean, it's a beautiful city for sure. Trash services 40, not golf course. Gotcha. That seemed a little low, but that's fine. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, $40 a year. I can't remember. That sounds about right for us. I know, like, it's one of those things that's kind of wrapped up, but I had to pay the initial payment for it. And it seemed, yeah, like it wasn't. I feel like we pay the same amount per year that we pay every 2 months up here in Kansas City. So that sounds about right. And our property taxes, I think, I said this in a video once. They were about 70 a year. I know that they're not that now. I know they increased because of the house and everything like that. Puerto Vallarta, never been there. As an alternate to Merida, the heat and humidity is too much. That makes sense. I guess, like, and that's obviously the number one knock on Merida is the heat and humidity and everything. But I gotta tell you, man, Puerto Vallarta was nice. And maybe it was just my experience. Obviously, I'm biased at this point. It felt busy to me, and because of the way that it's set up, I felt like this is gonna sound horrible, and I don't like mean this to like put anybody off of it. It's just my experience. One of my number one memories of Puerto Vallarta is beautiful coastline, no question about it. Obviously, beautiful homes up the hills and everything like that. But all I remember is smelling like exhaust fumes because there were so many cars on that thin little strip kind of going back and forth between the different areas. So I would say really walk around and check it out. It's a cool place. It's a beautiful place. I mean, I don't know. Outside of like Cancun where you see like the turquoise water, even though there are hotels right behind you, I don't know if you get a better view. It's beautiful. But that's what I remember is exhaust fumes. So tell me I'm wrong. Go there, tell me I'm wrong, and I will 100% own it. But that's my thing. Is every time I think about Puerto Vallarta, I was like, that was a cool trip, except for the car. So yeah. Tim, I found it very helpful and appreciated by the Boodle and can I separate them from the TRDH before putting it out. It's translucent or even clear trash bags so they can see. Yeah, that's a good plan. If you've got the translucent or clear trash bags, that's a great idea just to make sure they can kind of get in and out wherever you need them. I'm not much of a fan of mosquitoes. Next month we'll be there and finding out if it's for us. Yeah, the mosquito. So this is the weirdest thing for me because I hear this a lot. You hear about mosquitoes on almost every Facebook group, every forum. That's one of the things that like is consistently talked about with Merida. And I don't know if it's because we're like really good, like new construction, really good about, having somebody come by and spray and all that. I still haven't experienced a big issue. I mean, knock on wood, but I haven't experienced a big issue with mosquitoes in Merida. And obviously it could be a problem. There's no doubt about it. But even in our house and with everything that we've done with keeping lights on so we don't have the scat on the walls from bats and stuff like that, because they will go out and attack bugs, which is a positive. Negative because they put stuff on the walls. But it has not been a big issue for us. So I definitely make sure that you check that out. And obviously off is a good thing. Just make sure you get the stuff with DEET. Part of Vallarta is negative. It's touristy. Yeah, yeah. The touristy part. You know, I go back and forth with the touristy part because sometimes it's positive, sometimes it's a negative. But I say that I wouldn't want to live in Cancun. I wouldn't want to live in Cozumel. I'd live in Isla Mujeres, obviously. But yeah, the touristy part is real easy to pick up on real fast. So again, you're doing the smart thing by checking them both out. That's one of the better things you can possibly do. Tim, also put cardboard boxes out separately. Someone drives by, usually on a bike, collects them. Yeah, cardboard was a big thing for us because we had so many things delivered, so many like small appliances and stuff. But yeah, we just have stacks of cardboard. That stuff would be gone immediately. Puerto Vallarta, positive, better weather. Also smaller, which is a big negative for me. Merida, 1 million plus people is a big plus. Yeah, and the cool thing about Merida is you might have a million plus people, but it doesn't feel that way. You have all the benefits of having a massive population, but you'll walk home and you'll run into 15 people in 20 blocks. So that's, to me, that's one of my favorite things. It's like you get all the big stores and shops and, you know, Sorianas and all that kind of stuff. That's great. But you just don't run into that many people. It just does. It never feels that crowded. Again, outside of like certain areas, then it will feel crowded. Please talk mosquitoes. Glad to hear it was an issue for you. Mosquito level is a relative scale. I grew up in Saskatchewan where there are lots of mosquitoes and Merida doesn't bother me at all. Yeah, it really is. Like the mosquitoes, again, like just, I don't want to harp on it, but I see it all the time where people complain about mosquitoes. And the funniest part is you'll go on these Facebook groups and people will complain about mosquitoes. And then you'll have people that complain about the people that complain about mosquitoes. And they, you know, you'll hear like, you're growing into a tropical climate, deal with it. Like, okay, well, you know, I also think there are parts of Florida that are great, but I don't like alligators. Like I'm not complaining about the fact that they're there. I'm complaining about the fact that they exist. It's one of those things. But as far as the mosquitoes are concerned, I'm telling you, we sprayed twice at our house when we first moved in. It obviously was a construction site before then. But the streets, I've never had an issue walking on the streets. And you have to remember, like the streets of Merida are concrete facade. You know, you're 3/4 concrete and then the other quarter is the sky. I assume if you have like a pool that you're not running the filter, like it's just stagnant water, then yeah, that's going to be an issue. But, you know, we sprayed and nothing crazy. I'm not talking about we're spraying like some illegal insecticide or anything, just regular, just kind of maintenance kind of stuff. But we've had doors open, windows open. We have giant windows that go from our kitchen to the pool. And we've got fans, which obviously help everything. Fans are a huge deal. But just keeping air circulation. I mean, our whole home, outside of 2 bedrooms, are built around complete and total air circulation. And even those 2 bedrooms, you open up the doors and you'll still feel it running around. If you have that, then you're not going to have an issue with bugs no matter where you are. So go down, stay in a great place, rent a place, whatever you're going to do. But I've got to tell you that some people have issues. Some people talk about it all the time. I personally, just my opinion and Tim's, not had an issue. It's never been a big deal. Mosquito, the relative scale, we call mosquitoes Saskatchewan sparrows. Yeah, Canada's crazy. Glad to hear, Tim. My grandma was from Regina, and I'm genetically similar probably to some extent. Cool, companion high guy. Yeah. But, I mean, honestly, with regard to all of this, the number one thing is just, like you're doing, go. One of the biggest issues that I think everybody has is when you try to move somewhere and then all of a sudden, you know, you don't like it because of the thing that should have always been expected. It's like when somebody goes to Merida and they're like, oh my God, it's hot. Like, yeah. I mean, you know that going into it, but people that actually just move there and then 6 months later, they can't stand it. It's like, well, you know, you grew up in Alaska. 105 degrees is probably going to feel pretty hot. And in all honesty, it's super easy to avoid. But when the sun does hit you, you're going to feel it. Our entire house is literally built around being in shade. If you watch the video where I do just the walkthrough, not the 3 videos that are the whole walkthrough where I explain everything, but just the walkthrough, check out the amount of shade throughout the house. Look at all the areas that have direct sunlight, and you'll realize that it's the pool, the walkway to the master bedroom that has trees that are helped by that, and the courtyard. And the courtyard has walls that are 20-some feet tall, so it doesn't get it all the time. The pool, obviously, is awesome, but even that pool stays cool most of the time because it doesn't have sun all the time. And also keep in mind that we bought a lot that faces north. The front door is the northmost side. We face south, so we're going to get some sun. But it's not crazy. It's only for about 3 hours, and then we're done. Construct a house that's based around it if you're going to live in Merida. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. 100%. That's exactly right. That's why everybody thinks that we're crazy, because we didn't spend a lot of time there. We spent a month there and bought a house that wasn't on the beach. It was in the city. Still love it, but I also know that I can adapt to hot weather. So there you go. No, when you're on GPS. And Tim Will, he's already met up with Esther, right? Met up with them and kind of talked about what was going on. Tim is an excellent resource to have, man. We met up the first time that I went down after we bought the house, so good. Man, that's one of my favorite. I have got to figure out how to run a Discord, because I feel like that is probably the service that would help everybody out the most. I've heard so much about this. I've had so many people tell me that with our community, I've got to get Discord running, because it's like you can create all kinds of different forums and conversations, but you can also just get on and have people that can communicate with each other and call each other via Discord somehow. And I still haven't done it. So if anybody knows how to run something like that, please reach out to me, because I think it would be very beneficial for the group that we've created, because somebody like Tim would probably be able to help out everybody here, as opposed to me that is not currently living down there full time. But Tim, really appreciate all your help, man. It's been awesome. All right, I've probably got a few more minutes on here, so if you guys have any questions, let me know, or you can just ask Tim. Hey, Archer, what's going on, bud? We'll eat pretty soon, okay? I'm going to be up in probably about 10 minutes, all right? Okay. Oh, careful. My youngest son just walked in here in sweatpants and no shirt and asked when we were going to eat. They already ate. I have no idea what they're asking for. It's amazing what 4- and 7-year-old kids will eat and how often and how long, and they're going to eat me out of house and home. I'm not going to be able to afford a house in Mexico because of this. So, working on the next video. It is about, you guys probably, anybody who is on the channel and answers the poll questions that I have, which, by the way, thank you all for interacting with that. But I'm making a video talking about the experience of going through customs in general, but mainly in Merida. And my last poll question was, what's your least favorite part of it? And every single person outside of, I think it was almost 2/3 of the respondents answered waiting in line, and that is the bane of my existence. So everybody agreed. I loved it. Thank you, Will. Kids are hilarious. No sense of time and always hungry. Yeah, that's exactly right. No sense of time, no sense of what money is, nothing. Which I'm happy that my kids have an excellent life, and I'm very happy about it. But oh my God, literally offered them like a full meal before they went down for their quiet time, which apparently didn't work. But they didn't want it. And now they're hungry. It's like, yeah, well, you know, of course. Lori, good to see you. Yes, I am still going to do the interviews with people. I have the customs video lined up. And the reason that I haven't reached out was because when I did that chat on the Facebook group, I didn't realize, I thought I had the 4 people that I invited into that, and it went way bigger than that. And so I got a bunch of respondents and a bunch of messages from people that weren't the original 4 that I had. So yes, I am going to do that. I promise. But it was one of those things I was like, I feel like I'm good at hooking up technology, but I'm not good at the use of technology all the time. So yeah, definitely going to happen. And I'm actually really excited about that video because I already have, it's not in this one. Oh, it's over there. I actually have a bunch of questions lined up, and because people actually gave me the information about what their experience was and what they were doing, made it so much easier to go, fantastic, I'm going to create a series of questions. And so yeah, I'm really really excited about that video. I've now, the only thing I really got to figure out is like I need to see like if everybody has like either a phone like this where it can film in 4K, or if they have a microphone. If not, that's completely fine. But now I've just kind of got to work that one out. So for those of you who don't know, who are watching this trying to figure out what I'm talking about with Lori here, one of the videos that I'm really excited about was I had 4 people that on our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/travel the number 2 Merida. So facebook.com/groups/travel to Merida. I reached out and said, would anybody be willing to kind of go on video and answer some questions that I have? I'm trying to figure out if I'm going to do it as a live interview, so I like get them on Zoom or on a situation like OBS or something, and we go back and forth there, or if I just say, here are the 5 questions, film yourself, answer them, send me the file. And so that's the other part of the situation. But it's awesome because you guys, as you've seen through this live chat, you guys are the best people to ask about everything going on. Tim has answered more questions than everybody except for me when I go live, because he's the first person to kind of jump in and actually say like, 1, I'll meet with you, which is awesome, but 2, here's been my experience, I live down here, this is what I do, here's the people that you need to call. When I've had other people on here as well, it's been the same thing. So having people on the ground who are there, all the way to people who are just looking to get started at figuring out if Merida is the right place, like that's, you don't get better than that. And that gives a real good perspective. So my assumption is it's going to be a long video. It is one that I will probably not edit myself. I'm probably going to send all that footage to an editor that I have that has been excellent so far when it's a little bit over what I have the ability to do. But yeah, I'm really excited about that because you guys are, one, like I said last week, like you guys are the reason that I do stuff like this, because I really enjoy it and I have a lot of fun. But hearing stories from everybody is just, it's the coolest thing in the world to me. So yeah, thank you, Lori, for asking that, by the way. 1, gave me a reason to talk about it, but 2, it got me really excited to do that again. It's again over there in the other notebook that I have of 15. Let's see, where are we? All right, cool. But yeah, and again, like on these videos, when it comes, like right now we're in the live chat section and it'll shut off once the video's over. But in every single one of my videos, the one thing that I do want to tell the people that are here, that are watching this later after the live stream is done, is if you guys have any ideas, any questions, any thoughts about stuff that you'd like to see, I'm more than willing to go in and do a bunch of research and study things, or tell my opinion, my experience, whatever it might be. So never be afraid to comment on a video and just say, hey, you know, love it, hate it, kind of in the middle, but I'd really like you to talk about this, and I'll do it. I've got somebody right now, and I'm looking at my, so this is my live, my streaming setup, my recording setup, but over there is where you guys are probably used to seeing me, that was in front of the green screen before. But that's all of my editing software, or setup, I should say. But I have 2 comments from the same person that I haven't responded to, and I feel bad because I obviously try to respond to you guys as soon as possible, but I haven't responded to him because he brought up 2 really good questions that I need to look into and then get back to him. And I also feel like both of those questions could turn into really good videos. So if you ever don't see me respond, which by the way, Lori, appreciate it. I see that you said you're welcome. Thank you. If you ever don't see me respond, that's probably the reason, because I'm holding on to it because I'm trying to figure out what I need to do next. So don't ever feel like if you don't get an immediate response that I'm not responding. Normally it's because you've made me think and I actually want to get you the right answer. So There we go. This is this has been fun. I like the way that this is set up. I can't believe I never thought about setting it up like this. So I've got my new camera here. I've got 3 lights here. They're all cheap. I've got to get new lights. There's a reason that I look green even though I'm in a red shirt. But I really appreciate everything that you guys do. Obviously, like I said, if you haven't done it already, I would appreciate it if you liked the video. JPS, I know you did. Appreciate it. But you guys are the reason that I do this stuff, and obviously just doing the live streams has been ludicrously fun because I get to talk and kind of be myself with you guys as opposed to trying to like edit and make a video splashy. I can just talk about the stuff that we all like, and you guys can answer or ask any questions that you might have. So really, really appreciate it. Let's see. Yeah, I still got a few more minutes here. We're good. If you guys do comment on any of the videos or have any questions for like the text line, which is 816-727-7740, again, 816-727-7740, and my email is alexander@alexanderhowell.com. Again, all of that information is down below. But if you guys do have any questions about anything that we've talked about, the only thing I can say is please don't send them to me during the Super Bowl, because for the 3rd year out of like 5, I'm actually going to be able to watch my team in it after having never watched it before. Feel very, very lucky, very excited about it. There's a reason that I'm wearing this, but it's going to be really stressful. When we lost to Tampa Bay, I was cool because it's Brady. You're going to lose to him. It happens. But this is one where I feel like both teams are, for random reasons, pretty evenly matched. So really excited about it. JPS, really appreciate you being here, man. Thank you so much, as always. And again, reach out to Tim. You guys should hook up. Make sure that you can ask any question that you might have. Tim has been a huge resource for me as well, so really appreciate it. And guys, with that, I'm going to go ahead and sign off. Thank you all so much for being here. Like I said, the reason that I do this stuff is like literally for you guys, but you guys help me do this, and it's just ludicrously fun. So thanks for being here, Tim. It would be cool to see you on video on how to find tradespeople questions, ads, etc. Arrows are especially challenging. I'm going to take a picture of that, Tim, just so I have that. That's a really good comment. I'm going to put that in my book as soon as I'm done here. I will do that. And if you have, by the way, Tim, if you have any suggestions on that, I just messed up my contact. Oh my God, sorry. My contact is now over here and my eye's over here. All right, I'm going to try to get through this even though I can't see out of my right eye. Oh my God. But yeah, just send me a message if you have any ideas about that too, so that we can kind of work on that, because I think that's a great idea. But again, thank you guys so much for being here. We've been on close to 2 hours again, and this is just such a cool thing to be able to communicate with all of you, and obviously over chat it just gets even more fun as it goes on. If you have any suggestions, comment down below once this video is done. But outside of that, again, all of you, thank you so much for being here and being a part of this stream. And as always, peace. And he goes to OBS and hits stop streaming. Peace.